You're looking good, man. How you been holding up, brother?
Pretty good, Rudy, and yourself?
You know me, always surviving, always trying to kick around. Let's just put it this, man. The COVID has been a tough time. How have you been holding up throughout the last 3 years, man?
So I made the album during COVID, so I will definitely say there's a whole extra layer of, emailing and trying to figure out masters and what you want things to sound like to try and put that into words is a whole nother level. So it definitely took a little bit longer.
Well, you
But
know what? You know what I find incredible with you, though, is I mean, vocally and your lyrics and things like that. You're a very emotional, soulful person, if I can put it in those words. When I say that, I mean you know how to, um, you know how to go to the heart. You know what I mean? You know, you understand the heart. You understand music, heartbeat, and soul. What is it about that three combination that works for you when you are writing your music?
you know what, like I find it's so hard to write. Like I've always just written for myself. There's a couple times that I've written with other artists for other artists, but
Hmm.
when I write for myself, you kind of, or at least for me, I'm not able to write if it's not something that I've lived through or that I'm passionate about or thought about. And so all those things kind of have to come together in order for me to make something that I truly, can put my heart behind and myself behind and put that out. Like, and yeah, I feel like it also resonates well with people if it's coming from a real place. Even though everybody might interpret it in a different way and
Yeah.
kind of put their own life experiences on it, but if it's coming from an honest place, then it tends to work better.
But then what do you, I mean, you know, these days we don't have to put ourselves in genres. They always try to put you in genres.
Yeah,
What do what do you consider yourself? Because I wouldn't turn around and say you're a pop artist. I wouldn't actually say you're an R&B artist. I wouldn't say you're a soul artist. I wouldn't say you're a folk artist. I wouldn't say you're a country artist. I wouldn't say you're a rock artist. But you're an artist. And somehow all those elements seem to blend into your music.
I would, like I guess to kind of take all those different things and kind of put it into one word, kind of want to use the word alternative. And then just because where I get most of my inspiration from, and because the music is kind of programmed, even though it has the real elements into it and even some cinematic stuff, but because I borrow a lot from the program world, I'd say like an alternative pop. Uh, that's kind of like how I would kind of describe it.
I just love how when people throw out that alternative, it's like we got to throw you in some category, so we're going to use. I think alternative should be eliminated. I'm
Yeah,
serious.
I definitely feel like it's kind of a cop out. It's like I don't know what to call this, so I'm gonna just say it's alternative. So
Alternative.
I want it to be. Yeah, no, but it's necessary. I guess we need those little boxes in order for people to find music.
True.
Uh, but yeah, it's easier for me to kind of go. You know what? I love world music, so there's a little bit of that. I love orchestral and cinematic stuff.
Yeah.
I love pop, and there's some of that. But I'm a singer-songwriter, so I'm coming from I'm coming at those things from a singer-songwriter perspective.
Yeah, we're talking purity here too. I did you go to Humber College?
I did, yes.
I did not know that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but I'm older than you though. I went to up in Rexdale radio broadcasting.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I've been there. I've been there. It's a nice spot.
yeah, where do you went to Lakeshore?
So yes, we were at the pretty campus. Not,
Oh,
not to start any rivalry, but we do have the cottages and the music campus is maybe not the nicest part, and that's kind of where we were. And we had our gen eds, like prehistoric dinosaur class. The courses they have to take that you don't really want to take. The
yeah.
8 o'clock classes, those were in the nicer part of campus. But we had the lake. You guys, what did you guys have?
Well, let's put it this way: it was back in the '80s for me.
Okay.
So long, long ago. But we had the bars, we had the comedy clubs, we had a lot of different things back then. And
We didn't
if
have any of that.
yeah, and if I could add in, have you seen Humber lately?
I saw the music campus lately because I don't live too far from it. So I went for a run through the campus the other day. The
Yeah.
cottage area is nice and renovated, but the music campus still looks the same, and it needs a little bit of love.
Let's put it this way: up in Rexdale, man, they might as well start putting starships landing in it. It's a whole different setup right now.
Yeah, they've renovated like crazy.
Completely. It's awesome. I'm so proud of those guys too. The
Yeah.
reason why, of course, I brought it up, of course, of us alumnus, you and I, is the fact of you won an award which I didn't even know about. What was the award?
So the Humber one.
Yes.
So it's the Oscar Peterson Award.
Uh-huh.
I think it's part of the Oscar Peterson Foundation, and it's awarded to us. This feels terrible talking about it. It's a award given to a student that excels in not only the music program but also just academically, and but also like mainly in performance. Uh, so yeah.
Oh my good. Congrats on that, man.
Thanks so much, Rudy.
See, for me, I'll just add in. I'm actually in the Humber College Radio Broadcasting Hall of Fame. So there's my
Hey,
claim to fame there in
and Humber's
Rexdale.
a good spot, man. It's even years after. It always comes up in conversation, and I always have to say, I packed my bags, left South Africa, and came to Canada to study music at Humber. And honestly, one of the best decisions that I made. I loved it there. I made all the people that I work with to this day, all the opportunities that's come my way, is flowed out of that Humber channel.
I agree, and I always say it too, man. Humber forever, Humber for life. I will always, always praise Humber for things
Yeah.
I learned in the past, and I always add in too whenever I'm doing speeches. A lot of things I wouldn't know today if it wasn't for the teachings and what I learned at Humber College back then, and it still resonates today. So I understand completely
Yeah.
what you're saying too.
And on a music level, I was exposed to, well, everything was kind of jazz, pretty jazz focused when I was there, but you're thrown into R&B ensembles and Latin ensembles and samba ensembles. So there's all these music cultures that I wouldn't have been exposed to, and been taught by professors who are very proficient in those in those genres, which kind of just completely opened the doors to music for me.
Like I said, man, Humber forever. I want to talk a little bit about what we were talking about before we actually give out the name of the new album and what it's about. And you talked about the pandemic. And honest to God, for like the last 2.5 years, practically every artist I've spoken with, we of course talk about what it was like for them during the pandemic in trying to record music. I want to add your name to that list. What was it like? Because knowing that one moment you can record and then you can't record, people building their own studios at home, and then of course all the things that we were seeing on social media and on television. A lot of folks I've spoken with, whatever their thinking and writing was before the pandemic really did change during and after.
Right. Uh, Talking about COVID is kind of like, I don't know if you ever watched the Harry Potter movies, but Voldemort, it's like he who shall not be named. I feel like it's that point where you're like, don't mention COVID, don't say the word, don't say lockdown. But I kind of have to, if you're talking about this album, have to kind of talk about that, because this album is a direct result of that very first lockdown. What was it? May 2020. I can't remember when that happened, but anyway, it
Yeah.
beginning of 2020, lockdown happened. Nobody knew how long we're going to be there, whatever. So that was like a 2 week span where none of us went to work, none of us went to the grocery store, we didn't go anywhere. And I have my grandma's baby grand piano in my apartment, and I just sat behind that piano for 2 weeks because I didn't need to go anywhere. And it was so freeing, like not having that outside pressures of Toronto being like, what are you working on? What are you doing? What are you going to do next? But just the world shut down and you could just focus. And I sat down, I started writing music, and all of a sudden, which is kind of funny, is like I started reminiscing about trips that I've been on and places that I've been to. And I started writing, taking little snapshots and stories from all these different trips, and they turned into songs. And I didn't set out to write an album about the stuff that I wrote about, but during that first 2 weeks of lockdown, that's kind of just what happened, and it became this great, trip to just go in your head to go to a different place and revisit places that I've been to, and then went to thought about my childhood, and so this whole thing started. Once the writing was done and actually had to start doing production, like I always take my songs to a certain point as far as production goes. Like I'll sit, do a little mock-up production, do a little demo, make a little playlist, and then send that off to a producer and say, "Here's my rough demo, and this is what I wanted to sound like." And then we start working together. And then because of COVID, I kind of just reached out and went, you know what? Because I can't work with a producer in a studio, I'm gonna reach out to producers whose music I found online and on Spotify. And it doesn't matter if they're in Vancouver or in the UK or wherever they are. I'm gonna reach out to them because I like their stuff and I want to work with them. And so met this guy Sean Wharton, who's in DC, and we've been working together. He did 4 of the tracks on the record. There's some guys in the UK that did some remixes to the record. So that was kind of okay. Like that worked out well. Like there was an extra layer though, because all of a sudden your emails went from just 1 or 2 emails. Now all of a sudden we're trying to produce a track over phone calls, Zoom, and emails. So it definitely took more time. It definitely took more work. Um, and I'm very happy with where we're at, but it was a lot of work. It was, it was a lot of work. And there was times where, you have, as soon as things kind of opened back up, we were back in the studio and recording some vocals, but obviously the engineer is on the other side of the room and you're on the other side of the room, or you're in the booth and it's masks. And then just when you're singing, the masks come off. I'm sure all the musicians have, kind of gone through this. There was even a couple sessions where you go into the studio and they'd say, okay, you're not allowed to go into the studio yet. They just put the UV lights up, or I don't know, some spray or something to disinfect the entire place. And then you can go back in. And then after you're out, they have to put on the lights again for a little while. All these different levels of interesting things that happen. All in all, had a great time. Was maybe a little bit tired, and like the process was a little bit longer, but the result is still great. And I loved working with all the people that I worked on during the time that shall not be named.
Then let's get into it. We can name the new album. So let's get into that. What is the name of the new album and how does it represent you in this point in your career?
It's called Adventure Book. It is my sophomore album, so second record. And the title of the album just kind of seemed like the appropriate thing, because it's a little more joyful, not so serious, more playful, and it is about kind of reminiscing on all the trips that I've been on in my life and people that I've met, and some stories from childhood and high school, and it's fun. So I thought that the record should have a little bit of an element of not being so serious. The artwork is it's a painted picture as opposed to a photo, and me on the cover like this. So
I love those where they're.
yeah. Yeah, so I
Mm.
thought, like it was kind of fun working on the artwork as well. It's an old friend of mine from high school. She's now a fine artist, and I gave her all the lyrics and explained to her kind of the story behind every single song, and so she incorporated each one of those elements in the cover art. So yeah, like it kind of had that theme of a book. And as I released the singles leading up to the record, each one of them was like story 1, story 2, story 3, because each song is very much storytelling. Um, yeah, and so that's Adventure Book in a nutshell.
What's the single out that's right now?
Right now, Fuego is the lead single, and that is one that I wrote. Um, it kind of had its roots in a trip that I had going to Guatemala, and this was one of the first trips that I went on. Like once I kind of found my feet in Canada, and I was actually making a little bit of money at the Humber gym. I worked there at the Humber College Lakeshore gym. And could actually pay for school and for food and for residence, and then have like a couple $100 left. And then I Googled, okay, what's some of the cheapest flights and the cheapest places to go to? And so I did a little backpackers trip to Guatemala and found this company called OX Adventures. And they offer like a 2-day trip where you hike up like 2 volcanoes,
Yeah.
Acatenango and Fuego. Fuego is active, so you hike up this Acatenango, and then you stay 4,000 meters above sea level on Acatenango, and the whole night, got this volcano right beside you that's active, and you can see the lava come out. Um, and so as I was sitting behind my piano, I was like, it was such a great moment. Like sitting under the full moon. It sounds so cheesy. You can see clouds as far as you can see, volcano in the background, and so Fuego tells that story about that hike. It was, kind of also at the same time, just reminding people, there's so much out there. Kind of have to just live. You can't wait for life to happen. You can't just wait for one day. Just so the Fuego is a carpe diem, seize the day, go see the world with like the $2 that you have in your back pocket, and just make it happen. And yeah,
What's the next trip going to be?
for me,
Yeah. Or is there somewhere that you really want to go to that you haven't done it yet and you're like, it's got to be on the bucket list?
but if you can't tell, I'm in love with Mexico and Central America and South America. Um, so there's a place in Mexico called Morelia that I really want to go visit next. It looks beautiful. But then Denmark is also on the list. I've never been to Hawaii. Really want to go to Hawaii. So I think those are like the three top ones. And then I also want to go back to Namibia where I was born because I was there when I was I, 3 or 4, and then we moved to Windhoek, which is a town in Namibia. I've never been back. That's one on the bucket list that I really want to go to. And yeah, want to if somebody could pay me to do this, like to travel for a job, I'd love that.
Well, we need you to travel on tour. Is that going to be happening?
That's going to be happening. So for now, as soon as the most of the radio marketing stuff is done here in Ontario, I'd really like to do a little Canada and US radio tour, and then in the new year, gonna hit up Germany and the UK, a little bit of Europe, with the help of. I'll just plug them because this record would not have been possible without Factor and the government of Canada. Like
Yes.
they're two, yeah, 100%. And so they also offer a little grant to be able to go tour. So with their help, I'll do that UK and Germany tour.
I love it, man. And Factor has been, I love the fact they've been adding this into it. I know there's also some talk, I don't know if it's Factor or somewhere else, where, and I could be wrong, it's either, it could be RBC or it could be TD. One of them is trying to do something like that with their companies, with music, so that it's almost like you get, it's almost like getting a credit card. I won't say it's a credit card, but I'm just using it as an
Right.
example and
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
basically saying, okay, here you go, do what you need to do, tour, blah blah blah, and all this other stuff. Because touring these days is so important to an artist, and as we know, because it's not easy sometimes getting that royalties back from your songs with Spotify and things like that, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
touring these days is the lifeblood for an artist.
Yeah, and also just to kind of connect with, we had this little window during the time that shall not be named,
Yeah.
where we connected with a lot of fans over Zoom, and we had these little small concerts, and that was really great. But yeah, to be able to reconnect with people that send you messages on Instagram and say, "Oh, come to Brazil, come here, like we'd love to have you here." It would be so lovely to be able to go to those places, and now that the world is open.
Cross fingers on that, brother. Look, I'm going to let you go. I want to say congrats on the new album.
Thanks.
I hope you get a chance to tour the world, because if
Thanks.
there's anybody that, has not just love of music, love of the world, but love of life, and you're the perfect example of that. And we need to follow that, especially after what we've been through for the last couple of years. So, yeah, you know what? It just kind of tell you, when you've been locked down, things open up, really open it up for yourself, and you're doing that through music and the things that you do in your life, man. Congratulations on all this.
Thanks, Rudy. Quick note: I love your space.
Thanks, man. I'll send you the picture.
So, what do you play?
What do I play?
Are you a guitar?
No, 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 no. I'm more of a brass guy. I'm trumpet, trombone, baritone kind of thing.
Oh, there you go.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, Rudy. Thank you so much for your time.